Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to use this short time for discussion to underline 3 points, actually dealing with the name of our panel. 1 point concerning regulation, 1 point concerning supervision, and 1 point concerning the changing competitive landscape for the banks. My first point would be that after the global crisis of 2007 and 2008, obviously there was a lot of enthusiasm concerning that the problems are going to be solved. There was a G20 initiative, there was Governor Marvin King saying that this is the end of alchemy. There were meetings in which it was frequently mentioned that everything what needs to be done is going to be done. We have witnessed a lot of reform activity afterwards, and I would like to structure them in 3 lines. First one was obviously regulatory reform on capital adequacy, liquidity, and related issues, which is under the Basel II and has seen its incarnation within capital directives, capital requirements directives within the EU. Second, within the EU, we have the institutional reforms concerning supervision. We have a single supervision mechanism and we have a single resolution mechanism, and a lot of, let's say, unification is also going towards the deposit insurance and so on. But the third leg of these reforms have actually been advocated at the start of the reform process, I would say, in most important jurisdictions in which financial crisis occurred. We had a Walker rule being enacted by ex-Federal Reserve Chairman. We had a Vickers Committee in United Kingdom, and we also had within the European Union a very similar report, Liikanen report, all referring more or less to the same issue, whether this was the time in which, again, the Glass-Steagall should be in some sort enacted. Many people said Glass-Steagall was followed by more or less 70 years of financial peace in the United States, except for the Saving and Loan Association crisis that occurred in the 70s. So this issue of how to structure bank activity, in my view, has been gradually watered down. From the Dodd-Frank Act, a lot of exemption, prolongation, and concerning the European Union legislation. I think that this is a very important subject because not just the professors and theoreticians called for separating of these two, in essence, very different types of activities. One, as Professor Bengt Holmström from MIT would say, high-frequency assets and liabilities within investment banking with low-frequency assets and liabilities of traditional banking. And even the chairman of Citigroup, Sanford Whale, was advocating split these two, bring back the Glass-Steagall Act. My view is that if you separate and continue with this process, if you separate low-frequency traditional banking business, we would have it much more simple to regulate and supervise the banks. When Glass-Steagall was enacted, there was no deposit insurance in place. There were no emergency liquidity facilities in place. There were no Basel requirements in place. Banks were stable. Gradually the system has evolved, and it has proven to be relatively stable in the decades to come. So my first notion is that by completing this structural bank reform, that there would be then room to go into the, let's say, more simple, more efficient, and less costly Basel IV. My second point is dealing with supervision in a way which is also which has also been touched by previous speakers. How do we distinguish what are the new good? Yes. How do we distinguish what are the new eligible owners of the banks? I believe it's very important to be first of all, open to alternative owners of banks which have been restructured, but also to have some sort of a very fine, tailor-made supervision of governance and corporate control within the banks. Because long-term, prudent shareholders' interest would very much lie in the same area with the interest of the supervisor. So to analyze not just the decision-making processes, internal rules and regulations, but also how the internal auditors and chief risk officers are operating, and how much do they communicate with the supervisors, and so on. So I believe that this tailor-made approach is a very important one in order to prevent future malpractices within the banking. And finally, my point concerning changing competitive landscape, I will quote Bill Gates, who said in 2014, "Banking is necessary, banks are not." This is a very serious threat. But I believe that if the banks are not capable of living in a more simple, more efficient and less costly environment, they will find quite hard to compete with new companies coming from the technological sector, from mobile telephone operators and so on, taking over some very profitable businesses outside of the banks. So I believe it's also very important to have this in mind for the future period. Thank you.